And Jameel Ahmad joins me to dissect this topic further. He is the FXTM VP of Corporate Development and Market Research. He joins us from Johannesburg. Jameel, the Bovespa, the Brazilian stock market, has plunged 10%. The real, the currency, has plunged 7% since the news. Is there an end in sight?
Thank you very much for having me, firstly. Basically, we saw a very negative trading session throughout Brazil yesterday and actually impacted the emerging market sentiment as a whole. Now, what I am seeing here is recent history repeating itself because only 2 years back, the Brazilian stock market and the Brazilian real suffered from very similar allegations. And what appears to have happened is basically recent history is repeating itself because yesterday, this news filtered through about a possible corruption scandal or a bribe, and the Brazilian market suffered heavily. We had a 10% drop at the stock market open. The real plunged somewhat between near 7%. And it also halted the recent emerging market resurgence we've seen because the emerging market currencies suffered as a result of a risk-off period.
Well, we all know what happened to former President Rousseff after she was hit with similar allegations. What do we expect the same thing will happen to Temer?
It's far too early to tell right now, to be honest with you. This is a story that obviously needs to be looked into further, and I'm sure it will be investigated. But at the moment, this is just a story, and what I would say we're seeing is more political risk. We're seeing political risk in Brazil, we're seeing it in the US, huge turmoil in the stock markets over this week, and let's not forget we've got the EU referendum outcome and the ongoing Brexit uncertainty, so we're just seeing political risk continue to drive the financial market headlines.
Well, what will this do to the volatility and uncertainty of the Brazilian economy? Are we just seeing it slowly turning to another Venezuela?
That's too early to tell, to be honest with you. Let's not forget that before the plunge yesterday, the Brazilian markets and the real, its currency, had been one of the best performing markets for the past 2 years. And this was due to a recovery of the previous political risk that also happened 2 years ago. In terms of volatility, we're seeing risk-off. Now, risk-off is not very good for the emerging market sentiment because investors become less attracted towards emerging market assets. Hence why the ringgit traded lower yesterday against the dollar. It's very positive, though, for safe haven assets, so I like the Japanese yen and, of course, gold.
All right, thank you so much, Jameel Ahmad, FXTM VP of Corporate Development and Market Research, to talk to us about the trouble in Brazil. Now, before we end the show, here's some recap on the day's big news. This is the Business Brief.